Everybody, what's up? I'm going to talk about a champ today that I have recently finally started to pay real attention to, and it's a ridiculous champ. Especially if you're struggling in Deesa Caves, I'm going to show you an example of the difference this dude makes in Deesa Caves after we talk about him a little bit. But the champ in question here is Bot Mark 2. We've seen him around. I think we've all known he's good. I say he. We're going to keep saying he, but it's a robot. But anyway, he's a pretty ridiculous champion, honestly, particularly in Deesa Caves. But when you really get into his kit and start breaking it down, it's easy to understand why. And especially paired with my Ravenna, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to see them work together because the way she's got a damage ramp up effect, he has kind of a defense of the enemy reduction ramp up effect and especially again coupled with Artis, who's a great boss debuffer. The damage starts to get insane to watch tick down. So I'm going to show you an example of a run with Sorietta, my Sorietta, who is immortal, and my Bot Mark 2, who is legendary 1 or legendary 2, however you want to word that. And I just got him to legendary. He was maxed out mythic and still contributing just as effectively. So if you can keep him alive, he's going to do insane work for you in Deesa Caves. I actually pushed through 13 just by swapping out Sorietta and putting in Bot Mark 2. And then I've managed to get through 14. I have trouble keeping him alive right now. I think I need a few more evolutions in him to scale his survivability up a little bit. There's also a conversation to be had about perhaps gearing him for HP. But you do also need crit rate in his kit for him to do the things he does. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then I'll show you in action. But let's talk about what we got going on here. So his name is also Spider Artillery. So when you see that in here, that's what it means. Locks on an enemy whose defense has decreased. The closest one will be locked onto first. The damage dealt with locked enemies is increased by 15% of attack. So he's already doing more damage because the defense is reduced. But now he's doing bonus damage because the defense is reduced. And then it just talks about priority, right? Here, this is the important part about crit rate. This is why you want to focus crit rate so heavily on this champ. When he lands a critical hit, 60% chance to decrease the enemy's defense by 4% for 6 seconds. This effect can stack up to 8 times, reducing the target's defense by up to 32%. Okay, that's the important part here. And then here we've got shoots a laser, dealing attack damage to an enemy and enemies along the path. That one's fine, not the big appeal. And then here the ult. User shoots out 7 rounds in the selected direction for 2 seconds, each inflicting 110% of attack damage. So that's a pretty beefy amount of damage right there in itself. Rounds cannot penetrate enemies. While shooting, he's unable to move and immune to control effects. So like he can't be stunned or something during his ult and have it taken away, which is also really nice. If there's no enemy on the selected shooting path, he automatically targets other enemies. All right, so, and then with the talent, if the defense of the target is reduced, the damage inflicted by each round is increased by 30%. That's a lot. That's 210 more percent if he crit, or just if the defense is down. And then if he's critting every time, that defense down ramp up effect, and you'll see that take place a couple times in the fight. And the HP is just melting off the boss. I think in the run we do with Bot Mark 2 at the end, we kill him. Like we get his health down, and you'll see the part where the shield is supposed to activate. And before the shield animation can take effect, we kill him. So he doesn't even get to put the shield up, I think, is how I saw that play out. So he's a lot of fun. That's a lot of hits. You're going to have no trouble getting through the shield in Deesa Caves with Bot Mark on your team. He's going to take care of a good portion of the hits on the shield. So he's a great member of the team. And again, he was at Mythic 3 when the rest of my team is immortal. And yeah, actually the whole rest of my team was immortal, and he was a Mythic 3. And he was still in there, like contributing heavily to the run. So he's dope, man. So I don't know how to do this. I guess I'll show you one run after the other is probably the best way to do it. So I'll cut to those runs now, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about him. So insane, right? I think we shaved like more than, what, about 25 seconds off? I don't remember the exact times, but like 25 seconds or so off the run, off of an already pretty quick run, right? And again, Sorietta is an immortal, and Bob Mark II is a 1 crystal legendary. And again, even at Mythic 3, he was contributing. He got me through Deesa 13 when I couldn't get through Deesa 13, and I thought, you know what, let me pop Bob Mark II in and see just what kind of an impact this has. And I mean, they just melted it the first time. So again, I just think I got to get a few more evolutions in him. I may play around with him too in his gear. Crit rate's incredibly important for him to be as effective, right? In the same way that you want to stack crit very heavily on Taylor, probably prioritize crit rate over attack and crit damage. It's very important that Bob Mark II is landing critical hits to get that defense reduction ramp up effect to continue to play out often, okay? So crit rate's gonna be very, very, very important. You could justify going 3 crit rate sets and crit rate gloves. You want him critting every time he attacks, all right? I can't stress that enough. Again, alternatively, and something I might play around with is HP and survival stats here, right? Damage reduction and HP, or maybe just double HP, play around with that a little bit. I'm pretty happy with the crit rate he's got right now, so maybe I could even go with an HP set here and see if I can get him to just stay alive. Because again, if I can just keep him alive, he enables my Ravenna, especially, and my Taylor, to do so much more damage. So far, Serena does okay with heals by herself. So I've got Artis and Serena up front, and then Taylor, Ravenna, and Bob Mark II in the back is what I'm gonna try to work for. So I might play around with that, and he won't necessarily be doing a ton of damage himself, but he'll be enabling my other two to do a lot more damage, and maybe that will have an impact. So that's something I'll play around with. But in the earlier stages, especially if you've got decent heals and your front line's pretty strong, the only thing you really need to be worried about is when the boss does that body drop AoE that takes a big chunk out of everybody's health. If he can survive that, and your healer can heal him back up to survive it for the next time it happens, then you're good, right? You're probably fine. That's really the only big threat to your squishiers further back is that AoE hit. So you have to be able to counteract that with the power of your heals. So having a really beefy Serena is going to be a good place to be, right? A Serena with a lot of HP. If you can get your Serena on a good abundance set, even better. But again, you're still going to need that HP high. But just focus HP for her across the whole board here. That's the big thing. So try it with attack and crit, because that's only going to speed your run up. If you find yourself struggling to keep him alive, it might be worth testing the HP thing. Maybe I'll report back later after I've tried that and see what we think about it. But I just wanted to kind of introduce this dude to you guys, because he's been sitting around for a while, and you know, we've got a lot of the popular champs we've been focused on. Bob Mark II's nutty. He's a strong champ. I think he's a good candidate to put some resources in and bring up and use him in Deesa. Also, something that's interesting is his defense down will work from outside of the ring in the Terradome, which is interesting. So you can play around with that. If you don't have a defense down on your team already, he'll sit outside the ring. He won't do much else, obviously, but actually that might be worth testing too. Maybe we'll have to do a part 2 on Bob Mark II in Terradome. Because if he can crit and still do that damage, if he can crit from outside the ring and do the defense reduction thing, it might be something to play around with. So yeah, there might be a part 2 coming on Bob Mark II, because there's a lot more testing I want to do. But I want to go ahead and introduce him to you guys, which is why I'm putting this video out now. So yeah, let me know if you're interested in a follow-up on him. We'll do some more stuff with him, and I'm gonna probably work on getting him to Immortal, because I feel like he's gonna be a great one to have in my 15 team, especially when I'm wanting to start speeding it up. So that's it. If you got Bob Mark II sitting around in your box and you haven't brought him up yet, bring him on up. He's a beast. He'll help you out in Deesa Caves. I feel very confident he'll help you out in Deesa Caves at least. So yeah, that's it. I'm getting out of here. Appreciate y'all. Later.